Welcome to Great Travel Documentary, where every city has a secret, and we're here to tell it. Vancouver, a name that often conjures visions of glass towers catching the Pacific sun, of seawalls and sailboats, of polished streets and world-class living. But wander just a few blocks from its pristine skyline, and you'll find a different reflection in the city's glass, one that's cracked. Beneath the hum of wealth and progress lies a quieter rhythm, the shuffle of feet against pavement, the rustle of tarps in the wind, the sound of silence from those no longer seen. Here, in one of the most developed cities in the world, thousands lie curled on sidewalks and alleyways, beneath flickering neon, human beings scattered like forgotten notes in a symphony gone out of tune. How did this city, so rich in beauty, so rich in opportunity, become a place where beds are made from cardboard and curbs serve as homes? What does it mean when the most livable city in Canada is also one of its most unforgiving for the unhoused? Today, we walk those shadowed streets, not to judge, but to understand. Because behind every tarp, every tent, every tired gaze is a story, and perhaps a truth we've been too comfortable to see. Comment to 7 if you're ready to uncover what lies beneath Vancouver's polished surface. In Vancouver, homelessness isn't a recent phenomenon. It's actually been on the rise. There were 2,420 homeless persons in the city in 2023, with 605 of them not having a place to sleep, according to the annual census. This number could not be reflective of reality, however, because no official reports have been released for 2024 or 2025. Based on study of other statistics, one unofficial estimate from 2024 says the number might reach approximately 4,094. However, its veracity is challenged. These disturbing numbers show how bad the housing situation is in Vancouver and are indicative of a larger problem that has affected many other large cities in Canada. He makes fun of the fact that the Downtown Eastside is both a famous and infamously homeless neighborhood in Vancouver, highlighting the irony of the situation. Many of Vancouver's lowest-income citizens live in this neighborhood, which has a long history of problems related to housing, substance abuse, and poverty. The homeless situation in the city is most apparent here. You can't help but feel downhearted as you stroll around the streets of the Downtown Eastside and observe people living in tents and improvised shelters. Because each person's story is etched into the pavement of the streets they inhabit, here is where the human element of homelessness becomes most apparent. The Carnegie Housing Project, a Vancouver-based organization that fights homelessness, counted 605 people living in tents and other informal settlements in 2023. Forcibly living in hazardous environments with inadequate access to health care, sanitary facilities, and potable water is a common occurrence for these individuals. The increasing number of individuals living in makeshift shelters and tents is a clear indication that the city is unable to meet the housing needs of all its citizens. The societal effects become more apparent when the number of people without homes goes up. There are major public health issues that communities and neighborhoods like DTES encounter. Those without a safe place to sleep are more likely to suffer from mental illness, drug misuse, and infectious infections. Due to a lack of infrastructure, many individuals living on the streets are unable to get the medical treatment they need, and those who do have difficulties when trying to access services. Homeless people often face barriers to treatment and support services for mental health disorders such as trauma, anxiety, and depression. The increasing number of homeless people in Vancouver is putting a heavy burden on the city's social safety net. Shelters, healthcare, and social services are still inadequate to address the needs of the homeless, despite continuous attempts. People are still being forced to live on the streets due to long-term problems like poverty and unemployment, which worsen this scarcity. The number of people suffering homelessness in Vancouver increased by 5% in 2024, reaching 1,366 people. A significant development in the provision of housing options is that, after 6 years, there were more persons in shelters than without, suggesting that there has been some success in this regard. Nonetheless, there are still major obstacles that the city must overcome. For example, the number of fatalities among the homeless has increased by 29% from the previous year. Worse still, social services are severely underfunded, making matters worse. The provincial government has responded by increasing the number of shelter beds and emergency housing units, although these solutions are often short-lived and inadequate. Even though 2 more shelters were built in Vancouver to accommodate the growing number of homeless people, there is still a lack of room for everyone in need. Furthermore, many shelters are already at maximum capacity, which means that some people may not have access to food, water, and other essentials, particularly during times of severe weather. A large portion of Vancouver's homeless population lives in poverty and is unemployed. The Vancouver Economic Region's unemployment rate was 6.7% in December 2024, with a particularly worrisome rate of 14.4% among young people. Also, child poverty rates in several census tracts were higher than 10%, and the overall child poverty rate in the Vancouver CMA was around 16.1%. It is becoming more difficult for individuals and families to obtain and maintain stable housing due to these economic issues. There is a vicious cycle that is hard to escape when economic hardship is compounded by restricted social assistance. Homelessness is more likely to occur among those who are suffering from poverty or unemployment if they do not have sufficient support networks. More affordable housing, better access to health care and social services, and legislation to eradicate poverty and joblessness at their source are all necessary to solve this problem. Inadequate social services and ongoing economic difficulties are major contributors to Vancouver's homelessness problem. A few encouraging trends have emerged, but they won't be enough to end the current downward spiral. In order to get to the bottom of it, let's examine some of the most problematic areas of homelessness in Vancouver. There has been an increase in encampments and unsheltered people in several parts of Vancouver, but the Downtown Eastside may be the most well-known place for homelessness. This encompasses sections of both West and East Vancouver, as well as the neighborhoods immediately around UBC. Even though these locations are famously wealthy and close to some of the world's most desired real estate, there is a growing population of individuals who are unable to find permanent residence. Because of this, there are open conflicts between the homeless and locals in certain places. People in wealthy areas, such as West Vancouver, have started to speak out against the increasing number of homeless people in their neighborhoods. Some people believe that the rights of the homeless should not be infringed upon, while others worry that their safety and quality of life are being jeopardized due to the presence of tents on public streets or near schools and parks. These disputes highlight how multifaceted the problem of homelessness is in Vancouver. The increasing number of individuals living on the streets is only one aspect. The situation's impact on public health services, city infrastructure, and the community as a whole is also a concern. It will need a comprehensive strategy to end homelessness, one that considers the short-term difficulties faced by those experiencing homelessness as well as the broader community's potential difficulties in the future. The strain on Vancouver's public services and resources has become intolerable as the number of people experiencing homelessness keeps climbing. The disparity between the increasing demand and the shrinking supply is putting a pressure on social assistance programs, emergency services, and healthcare systems. More people are experiencing homelessness as a result of the city's fast urbanization and high cost of living, which have made it harder for people to keep secure homes. There has been a lack of adequate reaction to the magnitude of this situation, which necessitates immediate action. Since the need for emergency housing, food programs, and shelters has increased dramatically, the city has had no choice but to increase funding for these services. Still, many Vancouver shelters are operating at full capacity, and the waiting list for open seats become longer every year, even when funding has been raised. Shelters for those in need are an important first step, but they aren't always enough. Even while they provide a place to sleep, they don't do anything about the underlying problems that lead people to be homeless in the first place, such addiction, mental illness, and a lack of affordable housing. Consequently, a great number of people end up circling shelters in search of a permanent residence. The increasing number of people without homes puts a heavy burden on Vancouver's social services, including food banks and healthcare facilities. Due to a shortage of basic care and specialist health facilities, many homeless people suffer from untreated chronic health disorders. Mental health issues including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as infectious illnesses like HIV, hepatitis C, and TB, are more common among the homeless. Still, there is a problem with the healthcare system's ability to meet the demand for its services. This leads many people experiencing homelessness to put off getting the medical care they need, which has a negative impact on their health and well-being. There is a severe lack of social services aimed at helping the homeless, including programs that treat addiction and provide mental health care. Given the magnitude of the problem, existing attempts to increase the availability of these services are inadequate. Unfortunately, there is a severe lack of services to help the homeless who are dealing with mental health problems and drug misuse. Homeless people who cannot get treatment frequently wind up relying on emergency services, which puts additional strain on the system and makes it much more difficult to escape the pattern of reliance. Law enforcement and first responders also bear a heavy strain due to homelessness. Homeless people with serious mental health issues or drug abuse problems are a common demand for police assistance. People who are already at a disadvantage are further marginalized since there are no mental health programs or supportive housing options. Many homeless people are detained for nonviolent offenses instead of getting the help they need, which further isolates them and perpetuates societal stigma. An increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness has led to heightened public safety concerns. The potential for infectious disease transmission to grow is one of the main concerns. Many people living in tents or improvised shelters are at increased risk of contracting diseases due to the filthy circumstances caused by a lack of access to sanitation services. Infections may spread more easily in homeless encampments due to the absence of sanitation facilities, running water, and proper waste disposal systems. This poses a greater threat to society as a whole and further burdens public health systems. The reasons for the serious problem of homelessness in Vancouver. The reasons of Vancouver's homelessness issue must be examined in order to have a true understanding of the situation. There are many causes involved, but housing affordability, mental health support gaps, and drug misuse are major ones. The exorbitant cost of living in Vancouver is the main factor that causes people to lose their homes. When it comes to property prices, Vancouver is always among the top tier of global cities. A one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver now costs more than $2,000 a month, while the benchmark price for a detached house in the city hit $2.8 million, according to a 2023 study by the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. Rent or buying a house becomes out of reach for a lot of individuals because of this. The dearth of resources to help with addiction and mental health is another important consideration. Homelessness is often accompanied by mental health disorders and drug misuse problems. Unfortunately, there aren't always enough resources to adequately assist these folks. Long waitlists and inadequate financing make it hard for many people to get into drug treatment programs, and mental health services are already at a premium. This forces a lot of individuals out of their homes and onto the streets, where they have no access to resources that may help them lead better lives. The lack of affordable housing, high unemployment, and poverty are long-term problems that contribute to the increasing number of people experiencing homelessness. More and more individuals are struggling to make ends meet, and the city's resources are already under a lot of pressure. Many people have given up hope for a brighter future since these problems keep piling up, and the number of people experiencing homelessness keeps rising. Both the City of Vancouver and the Province of British Columbia have launched many initiatives to combat homelessness after realizing the gravity of the situation. A greater number of low-cost housing units and better access to addiction and mental health treatment have been two of the city's priorities in recent years. The Housing Vancouver 3-year action plan stands out among the other programs because of its ambitious goals, increasing the supply of affordable housing and facilitating easier access to social and supportive housing. Housing First is one of several experimental programs that the city has introduced. It prioritizes housing for the homeless and then offers them extra support services like mental health care, drug treatment, and job training. There have been measures made by the provincial administration as well, increasing financing for programs dealing with addiction and mental health and building more affordable housing were the primary goals of the $10 billion BC housing plan that was unveiled in 2020 by the provincial government of British Columbia. Nevertheless, the issue is still not resolved, even after all these attempts. There is an immediate need for additional affordable housing in Vancouver, since the high cost of living is still putting a strain on the homeless population. A number of proposals have been put up as the city attempts to address its homelessness problem. Making more low-cost housing available should be the #1 priority. More affordable homes, including social and supportive housing, should be constructed throughout the city. Simultaneously, Vancouver should enact rent control regulations to stop landlords from charging rates that are too high for the typical person to afford. Housing is important, but so is expanding access to mental health and addiction treatment programs. It is imperative that people have easier access to all aspects of health care, including mental health, addiction treatment, and crisis intervention programs. All people, regardless of their housing situation, should have access to these programs, which should prioritize long-term recovery above quick cures. Providing more job possibilities for the homeless is another possible answer. Re-establishing one's independence and securing one's own future may be achieved via programs that provide job training, education, and assistance in finding work. Homeless people have a particular set of problems, including poor mental health, drug misuse, and a lack of education, and these programs must be tailored to address these concerns. Ultimately, the homelessness situation in Vancouver is everything but simple, and it demands swift and decisive response. There has to be a lot more done, even if the government has tried to fix the issue. We can start to tackle the causes of homelessness in Vancouver by boosting the supply of affordable housing, enhancing mental health and addiction treatment, and creating more job and educational possibilities. It is our moral obligation to stand up for the weakest among us. We can help end homelessness once and for all by bringing attention to the problem, lending our support to local efforts, and demanding accountability from our leaders. Please subscribe, like, and comment if you got anything out of this video. We can't do what we're doing to bring about change and increase awareness without your support. Vancouver can become a city where every person has a safe and affordable place to live if we all pitch in.